Let's go. Let the nonsense begin. You bet, GW. Stick around. I'll show you some nonsense today. I'm going to show you some nonsense. I'll show you some great nonsense. Nonsense that you'll love. Okay, so what I'm going to be doing is talking to the TikTokers on my tablet, recording to a camera going on YouTube later on. I'll be monitoring chat over here on a 40-inch TV. I will answer questions and respond as I can. This is going to be about a 40-minute presentation, and so I really can't stop so much. I'll do what I can to interact with the TikTokers, but this is a straightforward, systematic teaching. So pay attention, seatbelts fastened, thinking caps on, tap the screen, share the live, tell your friends. Tap that screen. I'm telling you, you're going to feel, I guarantee you, you'll feel really bad. You get about halfway through, you go, dang, I wish I would have told Uncle Betty and Aunt Frank about this. All right, here we go. Tap the screen. So if you want to see my other stuff, go to the Principal Project of San Diego. Look for John Kenny. Let me make sure we are in fact doing this right. Yes, we are. Boom. So, Principal Project of San Diego for all my stuff. Now, if we are always content with the everyday things that we see and hear, we will never arrive at true knowledge. Who said that? Plato. That's right. Real smart guy. All right? Real smart guy. You do not want to be satisfied with where you are. No one is. If you're sentient, if you're conscious and breathing, you want to become more, you want to do more, you want to make more, you want to be more, right? Exactly correct. Today we're going to give a glancing blow to the Judeo-Christian tradition. That's right, I said it. The Judeo-Christian tradition, because it is the dominant ideology on the face of the earth today. All right? However, this is for everyone. I don't care if you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, if you're a Buddhist, if you are an atheist, if you're confused. This is for you. You're going to get something out of it. We're going to talk about the existence of God today on many different fronts. So again, it doesn't matter what you are, you can get something out of this. Tap the screen, share the live. Here we go. Thanks for the follows. Bang. We're launching the Bible and New Truth. Is new truth being revealed? We have to ask ourselves a question. Not a hard question, but a question. Is new truth being revealed? And there are many who would say, oh no, it's all been done. Oh, it's all done, brother. Oh, really? Well, let's see what Jesus has to say about that. I have yet many things to say to you in the 16th chapter of John, the 12th and 13th verses, but you cannot bear them now. Howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, comes, he will guide you into all truth, for he will not speak of himself, but whatsoever he hears, he will speak, and he will show you the things that are to come. He will guide you into all truth, boys and girls. He will guide you into all truth, not just a little bit more, but everything. Oh, it doesn't stop there. God as immaterial being would exist beyond the capacity of material examination, space-time location. Watch this. Stay with me there, hypothetical theist. Stay with me. In the same chapter, Jesus continues, 25. These things have I spoken to you in Proverbs, but the time comes when I shall no more speak to you in Proverbs, but I shall show you plainly of the Father. Bang. I'll show you plainly of the Father. Oh, we're going to see that in spades today. We're going to see that in spades today. All right? Thanks for the likes. Thanks for the follows. Hit that screen. Let's get some folks in here. Let's have some fun, man. Let's have some fun. Let's knock this out. Boom. If the Bible is to be believed, Adam and Eve were in the ideal. They had a fall of some sort, right? According to the narrative. Now let me back that up. That is an entire lecture that, again, you can see on the Principal Project of San Diego. Look for John Kenny. I do an entire exposition of the fall. Adam and Eve are in the fall. They fall. 2,000 years later, Moses comes with the 10 Commandments in the Old Testament. Out of the chaos of the fall, remember that in Genesis 6:6, God says, I repent that I have made man. I repent that I have made man. Can you imagine this? The God of the universe is like bummed out that he might have blown it here, right? So out of that chaos, and disorder comes Moses and the Ten Commandments, the Old Testament. Finally, there's rails to run on. I'm going to turn on a fan. I'm hot. And I can't be stopped. It's starting to warm up in San Diego. Okay, here we go. So, Moses comes with the Ten Commandments, boom. 2,000 years later, Jesus comes with the New Testament and Gospels. Tap that screen. My goodness, let's get some folks in here. What's going on? This is Saturday. Jesus in the Gospels, the New Testament. Jesus says, I am the fulfillment of the law and the prophets. He says, I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. I came not to destroy, but to fulfill. Jesus is trying to bring the nation of Israel and Judaism into a new phase of God's providence. Moses is trying to bring the people out of the chaos post-fall into order, right? Jesus comes and wants to take them to the next level. God's revelation is ongoing, upward, and progressive. That's one thing we don't understand. God, and this figures in large into our presentation today. Boom. Jesus is unceremoniously unalived. He was not supposed to unalive that way. Jesus should have been living to a ripe old age, presented to the Roman Empire, and Jesus' message should have gone through the entire planet in 6 months. That's another lecture. Now we got to deal with the completed testament age. CTA stands for completed testament age. There's one more phase to go. Boom. Oh my goodness. Look what we've got here. Look what we've got here, boys and girls. We've got 3 2,000-year phases of God's providence. What do you know? We've just passed 2024. We're 24 years past the time when something brand new should be appearing. We should not be surprised that there's a brand new expression of God's providence in the Judeo-Christian tradition. We should not be surprised at all. Last Adam, according to that's right, last Adam. There you go. You're reading, you're paying attention. So, what's God been trying to do? God's been trying to bring back the ideal. God didn't give up on the ideal just because Adam and Eve fell. God begins a restoration providence right away. But God has to work within the confines of the free will that He endowed every single one of us with. Can you imagine that? The God of the universe stops at your free will. God will not compel you to do anything. You have to want to do good. If you take the word history, now this doesn't prove anything, I get it. This in 250 will get you on the bus. But if you divide the word history into 2 words, you get his story. Interesting. Could be that history is not just a series of random disconnected events, but a formulaic plan leading to an end. Oh my goodness. We won't deal with that particular plan today. I'm going to talk about something a little different, but that is another lecture as well. The parallels of history. So we're dealing with the second coming and the ongoing evolution of God's providence through time. We have to ask ourselves. No, I'm not making up anything, pal. That's just history. GW, that's history. Pick up a history book, okay? Where does it all begin? Even SpongeBob wants to know. It begins in Genesis 1:27. Here's where the rubber hits the road, boys and girls. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. What? Yeah. Male and female created he them, plural. That tells us one thing, that God is indeed the harmonized being of masculinity and femininity. I'm right turning on another fan. Ha ha! I'm fired up, man. I'm fired up. So last week, we talked about the dualities. I won't go into this chart because we did this last week, right? This is the substance of God broken down in a chart in our arrogance. But suffice it to say, I'm going to break this down to something really simple and edible. You don't feed steak to babies, right? You can't even cut it up enough to feed. So we're going to deal with milk here, okay? There's no nature of God, there's only nature. No, that's not true. Divine masculine, divine feminine, let us... Yes! There you go. Hypothetical theists. We got to follow each other, man. We got to talk. We got to talk. Okay, boom. So, but God dwells down here in the energetic realm. What does that mean? So, boiled down to its essentialities. Last week we talked about that masculinity, that Genesis 1:27. In mankind, you have men and women, okay? Well, that's abundantly clear. I'm not trying to insult your intelligence. Animals have male and female. Plants have stamen and pistil. The two reproductive elements of a plant make more plants. Here's where it gets a little more interesting. Plants are made of molecules. Molecules have a positive and negative element. If you take 2 atoms of hydrogen and 1 atom of oxygen, show of hands, what is it? It's water, of course. Molecules are made of atoms which have a proton and electron. Boom. Atoms are made of particles which have a positive and negative charge or valence. And my goodness gracious, how old was Mary when she had Jesus? About 16. Most historians put her age at approximately 16-ish. Particles are made of energy. Uh-oh, atheists. And energy is invisible. Energy is invisible. So the very building blocks of matter and reality have their cause in invisibility. And we're going to go into greater depth about that in just a little while. Well, what do you know? Paul, 2,000 years ago, had a grip on this without the benefit of electron microscopes and science. In Romans 1:20, he says, for the invisible things of him, from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even as eternal power and Godhead, so they're without excuse. Even Paul got this. As a Pharisee who knew his Old Testament, his first 5 the Torah, right? So, essentially, we do know what energy is. God is the creator of is the first harmonized being of original positivity, negativity, masculinity, femininity, internal character, intellect, emotion, and will. Intellect, emotion, and this accounts for Lucifer, Gabriel, and Michael, the 3 archangels, by the way. That's another lecture. Or heart. The animating force of the universe is the heart of God. The intellect, emotion, and will of God animates the universe. And external form. God is a harmonized being of original positivity, negativity, masculinity, femininity, internal character, intellect, emotion, and will, and external form, or the created world. We have intellect, emotion, and will, and external form. Boom. Again, this explains this very complex chart, which we did last week, which we won't deal with right now. But suffice it to say that God dwells in the subatomic realm, in the energetic realm. Okay, what do we got? Stick with me, Jeremiah. Intellect, emotion, will, divine conscience. Very good. Hypothetical. I hope you're following, my brother. We got to talk. So, how about that universal prime force? That God perhaps expresses itself in any one of 1,000, 1,000,000 different ways. Rather than everyone saying, my God is the only one that's correct. What if that God has the ability to express himself in any one of 1,000 different ways, right? Now, with this invisible mind we were talking about, now Max Planck is considered the father of quantum theory and quantum mechanics, right? In 1918, he got the Nobel Prize in Physics and was a contemporary of Albert Einstein. Oh, not blind faith. We're talking about science, pal. Active Patrick, stick with me. Stick with me. Here's what Max Planck had to say about this. As a man who has devoted his whole life to the most clear-headed science, to the study of matter, I can tell you, as a result of my research about atoms, this much. There is no matter as such. In other words, there's no matter as you think it is. Everybody thinks, oh, wow, that's pretty solid. It's actually atoms in motion. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force, the force, which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. Max Planck is essentially saying there's a force that brings the most minute solar system of the atom together. What is the binding force of particles, proton and electron, particles, valences. How do they stay together? What is that binding force? By Newtonian principle, if that's a measurable effect, and it is, there must be a cause. There's an invisible effect, there's an invisible cause. He sums up his statement. Now, this is 1944. He gets the Nobel Prize in 1918. And after a lifetime in an electron microscope, by the way, this is not his supposition. This is, you say, oh, appeal to authority, web, boo-hoo. No, this is 30, 40 years in an electron microscope, and he comes to this conclusion. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all matter. Very interesting that the word matrix and force are entering the culture like gangbusters. Use the Force, Luke, and the Matrix 4-film series, right? Why is that? Why is it? Well, enter the CERN Super Collider. Oh my goodness. That's right. Hypothetical theist. You ain't kidding, man. People that say God doesn't exist have never experienced God. That's the problem. Once they experience God, they never say that again. I experienced God for the first time in 1972, and I never looked back. That is an experience that has no peer. There's no parallel in the cornucopia of the human experience as experiencing the Spirit of God. You can ask for that, you can pray for that, and it will happen to you. If you believe and pray that prayer, God, show me who you are, and then go about your business. But pray it sincerely. I want to know who you are. God, if you exist, please show me. Don't do it arrogantly, like, oh, make a rabbit appear in front of me. Don't do something stupid, but ask God to show himself to you. He'll do it. And oh my goodness, you'll never be the same. Enter the CERN Super Collider. Oh my goodness. Now, 100 years after Max Planck saying there's an invisible mind in the universe, the CERN Super Collider comes along with the God particle. Oh my goodness. Leon Lederman, read that. All right? Here you go. YouTube people. The God particle. Oh my goodness. Higgs boson. The Higgs boson is sometimes referred to as the God particle, much to the chagrin, granted, of the scientists who prefer the official name. Its discovery lends strong support to the standard model of particle physics, which is thought to govern the basic building blocks of matter. The Higgs boson particle is important to the standard model because it signals the existence of the Higgs field, an invisible energy field present throughout the universe that imbues other particles with mass. Since its discovery 8 years ago, the particle has been making waves, get it, in the physics community. Ho, ho, ho. Yeah, now we got to deal with the Higgs boson. Boom, boom, boom. Oh my goodness. Here you go, atheist. There you go. Yeah, all right. Boom. An energy field present throughout the universe. Now we know how atoms get their mass. If it's the case, as the Higgs boson attests, we have an external measurable result in the invisible world. We have a juncture between the physical and spiritual worlds, or invisible world, right? If in fact the Higgs boson is the means by which atoms get their mass, they have to be getting mass from somewhere. They have to be getting mass from somewhere. Where? Ask yourself the question. So, essentially, what we're talking about is a universal prime force. Let's just take the word God out of the equation. Many times the word God is prejudicial. For me, it brings back memories of Sister Benigna. Sister Benigna dug her literally dug her nails into my arm until blood came out. I was the class clown, right? So one day she just decided to solve the problem once and for all. Mr. Kenny, are you done fooling around, cutting up in my class? Yes, Sister Benigna, yes I am, stop please. I never cut up in the class again. So the word God, and it carries with it a very bad history many times. The Spanish Inquisition, the Salem witch trials. There's all kinds of disagreeable history in the religious world. Granted, I grant you that. I'm not stupid, right? But we're talking about a universal prime force. We're talking about a scientific principle first and foremost. Before we talk about anything, we're talking about a scientific principle of universal prime force. And the Higgs boson is a classic example of this. Boom! Remember what Paul said. The invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen. Even Paul, unaided by electron microscopes, could figure this out. So, some interesting folks in here. So, just how does God do what God does? In our arrogance, we're going to pull it apart right now. So we're going to talk about something called the four-position foundation and the triple objective purpose. Burn that into your synapses, boys and girls. Tap the screen, share it alive, don't forget. So we say that God, that universal prime force, is the origin. Remember, we talked about that. Masculine, feminine, subject, object, positive, negative, right? The light doesn't go on until positive and negative are engaged. Energy begins to flow. Boom. God divides that polar binary origin of masculine and feminine, subject, object, whatever, plus, minus, into subject and object parts. This is just how it's done, right? Through the forces of give and take action, let's say in the case of a man and a woman, what will they do? Through the forces of give and take action, there'll be division, and then union action. There'll be another result, a child. In the animal world, a lion will have a cub, a dog will have a puppy, etc. Okay? Four-position foundation. God does everything in the universe through this formula. Four-position foundation. But at the center of it, what is the binding force of the universe? The binding force of the universe is the heart of God. We talked about that before. Intellect, emotion, and will of God is the animating force of the universe, or the heart of God. The pulsing force in the universe, what drives the universe, is the heart of God. Now, we're going to talk about this in just a second. The spherical dimension of existence. But first, we want to talk about the spiritual and physical world. I said that I would be talking about this today, and here it is. Humankind as the center of the spiritual and physical worlds. Boom. Interestingly enough, we are the microcosm mediator of harmony between those two worlds. You'll see a lot of people now in the world, Lisa Williams, James Van Praagh, John Edward, Teresa Caputo, who have this ability to actually stand as the mediator between the spiritual and physical world. Just watch one of those shows and watch what they do. And you'll see there are certain people in the world that have achieved some kind of openness to the invisible realm and can actually channel it. That shouldn't surprise us at all. It shouldn't surprise us at all, because the Bible says in 1 Corinthians 15:44, there is a natural body and there is a spiritual body. There's something of substance in the spiritual realm, as what you might say a co-partner with our physical body. We have a spiritual body that goes, like, an analogy would be like a flower pot and the flower. The flower pot is the physical body, the spiritual body is being held by that flower pot, or the physical body. So we have the physical world. We have 5 physical senses: sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell. Correct? Everybody tracking with me? Like astral projection. Excellent. Yes, Jairus, right. That's actually, there's something to that, my friend. So, in the physical world, 2 things are present that don't cost a thing, that are just there. 3. Well, warmth is related to sunlight. We have sunlight, air, and warmth. Warmth is directly connected to sunlight, by the way. So sunlight is just there. You don't have to ask for it. You don't have to beg for it. You don't have to run for it. It's just there. Air, open your mouth, open your lungs, and you get your air, right? Those are positive elements that are just supplied by nature to energize and support the physical body. But there are what are called negative elements: food, clothing, shelter. These are things you got to do something for. They don't just come to you. You have to go out and get food, clothing, and shelter, one way or the other. Those are considered negative elements, and that supports the physical body. Now, likewise, in the spiritual world, for our spiritual body, we have 5 spiritual senses: clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairtangence, taste, and smell. If you haven't read about Padre Pio, please do so. This is a man who had what's called the stigmata. There's many, many people who have had the stigmata. They have the wounds of Christ in their hands. They bleed in their hands and feet, and sometimes in the side from an early age, and it doesn't go away. It's some kind of a spiritual phenomena. There's people that can see into the spiritual world. They can see the future. They can predict. There's many instances in the Bible where people have predicted the future. So this is a feature of the spiritual world. Clairaudience. How many times have you had a dream that you swear was real? Right? So they're clairtangents. Personal experiences are subjective, I understand that, but one time when I was first hearing this teaching years ago, I was listening to The Fall of Man. It's the story of the fall, the quote-unquote Apple story, and I was falling asleep. And I'm telling you, I felt like somebody hit me in my side. It felt like I was going to break a rib. It was unbelievable. I'll never forget that, but it was so tangible. It was so tangible, I never forgot it. Taste and smell. When Padre Pio, they said sometimes when Padre Pio would walk into a room, people would smell fragrances. And he wasn't a man, he was a Catholic priest. And he was not given to wearing adornments of any sort. No rings, no necklaces, no nothing like that, no fragrances. But people would smell beautiful roses and fragrances when he walked in the room. So, now, along with sunlight, air, and warmth in the physical body, in the spiritual world, God's love, warmth, and truth are always there. They're always there. It's a matter of being open to them. We have to be open to those things, to God's love and truth, right? If you're not open to it, you'll never experience it. But that is energy and food for the spirit. And then vitality, if your negative elements here corresponding to food, clothing, and shelter for the physical body, vitality elements, good or bad, your actions, study, pray, do good things, be a good person, be nice to other people. That energizes your spirit, right? Yeah, right. So, physical body returns vitality elements to the spirit returns life elements to the physical body. This is what they call the silver cord that connects spiritual and physical world. Now, we talked earlier about the four position foundation. This is how God does everything in the universe. Tap screen, share it alive. We're going to talk now about spherical dimension of existence and three dimensions. Why is it that the world is in three dimensions? If you close one eye, everything is very one-dimensional. It's very hard to tell how far things are away. Open that second eye, and you see things in three dimensions. Why is that? Because everything is in orbit at the subatomic level. Everything in the subatomic level is in orbit. It's in either elliptical or round orbit. Imagine if particles moved laterally this way, back and forth. Imagine if the Earth went back and forth from the sun straight. Ridiculous, right? We're in orbit. We're in a graceful 68,000 mile an hour orbit around the sun, right? So everything at the macro level and the micro level is actually in orbit. And that's why you have three dimensions. Atoms in orbit are creating a circle in 360 degrees. So we have to ask ourselves the question. Yeah, right. All right. We have to ask ourselves the question. Why did God even bother to create the universe? Why did God even bother to create the universe? SpongeBob wants to know as well. Well, there's a good reason why God created the physical world. First, we have the visible, substantial world. We have a physical and physical body and physical mind, and they have give and take. As long as they're connected, we continue to live. Right? There's an invisible, substantial world. 1 Corinthians 15:44. There's a spiritual body and a physical body. We are the mediator between the two, and there's a natural body and there's a spiritual body. 1 Corinthians. Boom. There is an invisible, substantial world. You have a spiritual body and a spiritual mind. The spiritual mind has given, or the spiritual body has give and take and sustains the physical body. The spiritual mind has give and take with the physical mind and sustains the physical mind. Right? You always leave but sneeze. You can always leave. but there's an invisible, insubstantial world. This is the most important thing. This makes God God. The only thing that is in the invisible, insubstantial world is God himself. We talked about in the four-position foundation, the only way there's relationship is subject and object. Everyone desires love. Everyone on earth desires love, unless you're just not conscious at all. God is the same way. The reason why God created the world, because even God desires love, right? Even God desires love. The only way God can do that, and the only way you can have a love relationship with someone else, they have to be over there, and you have to be over here. There has to be a subject and object to have a circuit of love. The only way that light comes on is the relationship between subject and object. The energy flows and the light comes on. Same thing in the physical realm with human beings. The only way you'll have love is the object of your love has to be over there, right? Outside of yourself, you have a relationship with that person returns love to you, and there's a circuit of love. God is an invisible being, see? So God has give and take with the spiritual mind. As an individual truth body, an individual entity, God has a subject and object relationship with our spiritual mind, and the spiritual mind has relationship with the physical mind. So the only way that God can have a subject and object relationship is God has to have objects outside of himself. If we were purely spiritual, we would just go schlepping back into God, like putting a teaspoon of water in the ocean. Ugh. It means nothing, right? Oh, wow. Soul horror. That's slow, man. That's really slow. Wow. So, again, we said we're in a new time, right? Jesus said 2,000 years ago that more was coming. I have yet many things to tell you, but you cannot bear them now. Howbeit, when he, the Spirit of truth, comes, he will guide you into all truth. We're in that time now. This is a brand new level of God's providence. God's providence is ongoing and upward. These things I've spoken to you in Proverbs, but the time comes when I'll no more speak to you in Proverbs, but I will show you plainly of the Father. Remember, Adam and Eve were in the ideal. They fell. God's revelation is progressive, ongoing, and upward. Every 2,000 years, something new comes. We are in that time right now, a brand new time in history. We're in the completed Testament age, and the Messiah will return. And with that, I'm pulling a small piece out of an enormous presentation. I'm taking pieces out every week out of this a very, very big presentation because it's just too much in one session. But the force be with you, and thanks for coming. Now what I'll do is I will turn off the camera. This is going on YouTube in a few minutes, and I'll talk to the TikTokers.